My honor and privilege to welcome Rich L.
Dr. Morrow tells me that Ghana is the next step, and I can't wait. So it is, as some of you know, I am on the road constantly now. And the good thing about standing here at Centro in Reading is I feel like I've come home. I feel like I'm at home. And so it's so great to be with all of you here and to celebrate the Unity Coalition and all the good work that it's done and all the great work that's happening here in Reading. It's dinner time. I'm supposed to make some jokes, just talk for a few minutes and then say we're adjourned. That's sort of what happens at this hour. But as you know, I don't need to tell you, we live in serious times. And I wonder if you'll give me permission for a few minutes to talk about serious matters in our country today. Is that okay? Yes. We are on the eve in this country and here in Reading where people will lose their food support. We are on the eve of where premiums for healthcare are going to skyrocket for millions of Americans all across our country and many folks here in Reading. We are on the eve of many families losing child care support. Amid all these changes, we are on the eve of many of us in need of mental health support losing that support. We are on the eve of all those things happening. And so I am here tonight, I believe we are here tonight, to ask some pretty basic questions about our country and about ourselves. How is it that we can come together at a time when everything seems to be coming apart in our country? How is it that we can make community a common enterprise, not just for some of us, but for all of us, where all means all? And how is it that we can answer the question, if not now, then when? Will we wait another day? And if not us, then who? Then who? Now, I'm traveling, as I said, the country almost every day, every week for the last 2 years. And what I hear Americans, what I hear our fellow Americans saying, no matter who they voted for in the last election, no matter whether I am going to Republican strongholds or Democratic strongholds or purple areas in this country, whether I am in the far west of our nation or the deep south or New England or here in the mid-Atlantic, I hear Americans of all kinds saying the same thing, that we can do better and that we can be better. Do you agree? That we can do better and that we can be better. That we can do better and that we can be better as individuals. That we can do better and be better in our communities, like right here in Reading. And that we can do better and be better as Americans, or just as people, as human beings in our country. But we need to recognize, and we all know, that we are living in a time of incredible uncertainty, of chaos, where so many of us feel like things have been turned upside down, disorganized, where we are disoriented, where so many of us, even some tonight, came up to me and said, I feel a sense of despair. I feel a sense of dread about what is happening not only in our country, but in this community and in my life. You with me? But in my life. I believe we are facing a crisis of belief in our country that goes way beyond politics. And that didn't just start in the last election. Let's get clear about this. The trend lines have been clear for 50 years. This is a long time in the making. We no longer believe in this country in so many of our institutions. We don't believe in so many of our leaders. We don't believe in so many of our faith institutions. Pastor Evelyn, where are you? As a person of faith myself, I'm sorry to say that so many of us have lost faith in our faith institutions. We have lost faith in so many of our civic organizations. Heck, how many of you are worried about the holidays coming up? Thanksgiving or whatever you may celebrate. And you're worried about what's going to happen with your family and friends around the table, and whether or not you're going to be able to get through the dinner without an argument about what's going on in this country. How many of you are worried about that? We have lost faith in one another in this country. We have lost faith in one another. I mean, think about it. We have politicians and news media and social media who I believe are, I want to tell the truth and not sugarcoat what's happening here, who are intentionally manufacturing and stoking division in this country, and you have to ask why. Why? And who the hell gave them the right to do it? They're doing it for their own political gain, to get more viewers and eyeballs, to take us down rabbit holes on social media, all for their own benefit at the expense of the common good, our shared good. We have to ask, are we willing to put up with that anymore? I think the fundamental question we have to ask in this country is not who's going to be the next president or who's going to win the midterms, as important as those questions might be. I think the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves is, how can we restore faith and belief that we can actually come together and get stuff done together? That, I think, is the fundamental question in America. Now, the thing that we have to remind ourselves of, not as Americans, but as human beings, as people, is that we all want the same thing, regardless of who we vote for, regardless of our party affiliation, regardless of so many things. As human beings, we all want the same thing. We all want to be seen and heard, right? We all want to believe that what matters to us matters to others. We all want to believe that we can be accepted in this world regardless of where we live or what native language we speak, or the color of our skin or ethnicity or heritage. We all want to be accepted. We all want to have a sense of validation. We all want to believe that we're part of something larger than just ourselves. These are human desires, not American desires only, not Republican desires, not Democratic desires. They're human desires. And so I think at this time we'd be wise to remind ourselves of these basic human desires that we all have. Now, you may think that for the time that I have tonight, I'm going to wallow in despair and dread about what's happening in this country, but I actually believe there's good news in America, and I want to share some of it with you. There's good news. No matter where I go, no matter who I talk to, there is a hunger in this country to put this country on a better path, to put this country on a more hopeful path, to put this country on a more equitable and just and inclusive path. You with me here? It is time to get ourselves on a new path, and there is a yearning among us to do this. Make no mistake, people want to step forward and come together and do this. There is a desire in this country to turn away from us veering increasingly towards cruelty in this nation. Let's call it what it is. There's the king of cruelty calling me. And I will say to the king or to the queen that we are here to reject cruelty in America, that we are here to claim a sense of decency in America, that we may have disagreements about policy, but we ought never to have disagreements about decency in this country. Never. That there is a call in this nation for dignity. For dignity. Now look, in America, we like to give lip service to dignity. Let's face it, we do. We like to talk about it, but we're not real good at it. I don't believe. So when I talk about dignity, I believe that each and every individual on this earth, no matter where they came from, no matter the language, the native language they speak, no matter who they vote for, no matter what God they pray to, if they pray to any God at all, no matter how much money they have, no matter which part of Reading they live in, no matter what their level of education is, that dignity is a God-given right. It's non-negotiable. We have to afford and uplift each and every person's dignity in this society. But the good news doesn't just stop there. There are people who say that we don't agree on anything, that we're too polarized, that we're too divided, that we can't come together and do any work. Well, you know what? I point them to Reading, Pennsylvania and say, no, actually, there are people coming together to do great things in this town. And all across the country where I'm working. Ted, you just asked me, I'm working in Jim Jordan's congressional district, the co-founder of the Freedom Caucus, and two separate initiatives that look a lot like Reading's. We're working in Northern California where there are militia. We're working in Selma, Alabama, which is trying to move forward amid all the challenges that it has faced over the decades. We're working in Owensboro, Kentucky, where they're real good at building buildings but not building community. We're working in Alamance County, North Carolina, which is one of the most divided places I've worked in 40 years. And I could keep going, but here's what I've learned from all these places and others as I travel the country. There are issues that we will rally around as people in this country. We don't have to go very far to find them. We care about our youth, and we want to make sure we lift them up, each and every one of them. We care about health care for each and every individual in our society. We care about mental health in our communities. We care about senior care and ensuring that seniors are not isolated in their golden years, that they feel connected and loved, and that someone's walking beside them. And as a senior, I better get that. We care about education and early childhood education. We care about a sense of belonging. Amid our differences, we do want everyone to belong. We can rally around these issues. In fact, people all across the country in all the places I mentioned, and hundreds more, are rallying around these issues today. And one other thing about the good news. We are still innately good as people. It didn't go anywhere. We might have misplaced it. It might be caked over. The noise might be overwhelming it at times. The news out of Washington, D.C. and Harrisburg might make us believe that somehow we have lost our innate goodness. But as I work with people all across this country, what I can tell you, what I'm here to tell you, what you already know, you didn't need to come here to listen to me tonight to tell you this, that we are innately good, that there is so much goodness in the world. We just need to find it again. We need to tap into it again. We need to lift it up again. We need to value it again. We need to believe in it again. We need to believe in it again. So let me say as clearly as I can, we don't need more divisive politics in this country. To those politicians and news media and social media folks who want to manufacture and stoke division and polarization in this country, I say good riddance. We don't need you. We don't need you. I do believe we need to get on a new civic path. And I do believe the change we need is not going to start in Washington, D.C., where I'm going tomorrow to cut a video in front of the Capitol and then another one in front of the White House. I don't think it's going to start in Harrisburg either. I think it's going to start in communities like Reading, Pennsylvania, right here. And it already has started here. I think we need to get on this new civic path. And I think we need to grow this path over time. So I just want to mention 4 key things. Is that okay? You still with me? Should I stop? 4 key things I just want to mention about this new civic path. Some of which you've already heard. First is, I believe we need to make a commitment to turn outward toward one another. We need to make a commitment to turn outward toward one another. This is not a technique. It's not something you download off a website. You could buy a couple of my books to read about it, but you don't need to do that either, though I'd love to sell some more books. Turning outward is an orientation, a posture. It's a choice we each make as human beings. Will we be turned inward toward ourselves, or will we turn outward toward one another? I believe in order to create greater unity in our communities and in this country, we have no choice but to turn outward toward one another. And when we turn outward, let me be clear, we do not have to like each other to work together. We just have to make a commitment to work together and get some stuff done. In order to move forward, if we don't turn outward, how in God's name can we see and hear one another? How can we uplift one another's dignity? How can we understand the context of our communities? And so the first thing I think we must choose is not what strategy, program, or initiative we want to begin or we want to get more money for, as important as those things may be. I think we need to make a commitment to being turned outward toward one another, to see and hear each other. Second, I think we need to focus on what we can agree on. Look, as Americans, we have become incredibly practiced at talking about what we're against, right? At talking about our grievances, at building obstacles to change, of pulling each other down and tearing each other down. I think we have to make a choice to actually focus on those things that we can agree on and get moving on those. Look, there are real differences in Reading and there are real differences in this country. Let's be real about it. Let's admit it. Let's acknowledge it. But let's not let it hold us back and hold us down. Let us find those things we can agree on and let us start to move forward on those so that we can restore our sense of belief that we can actually come together and get moving together. And one other thing about this. We will need to let go of framing everything in political terms. Because once we start talking about politics, we pick up sides. And we will never get together under those conditions. But here's what I've learned after 40 years. I know I only look about 29. But it's not that funny, Mike. Here's what I know after 40 years of doing this work. And I know this from Reading, and I know this from other communities. If we can change the frame of reference from politics to what matters to us in our daily lives, we can come together across our political lines, across who we vote for, across religious lines and faith lines, and begin to get work done together. So that's the second thing. Third, we need to build together. Now, there are those in my field who are running around the country saying that the way out of the mess that we are in is that we just need to keep talking to one another. I believe talk is important, but I've never seen a marriage that's been in a mess get fixed by people simply talking. I've never seen a community that's been in a heap of trouble simply sit around a table and talk its way out of the heap of trouble that it's in. I've never seen a country, whether today or historically, move forward by simply talking about what they want to do. They had to decide to build things to reflect what they wanted to do. We need to come together and do things, to be partners, to be creators, to be producers, to be innovators together. And when we build together, we begin to discover or rediscover that we have not only innate goodness, but innate capabilities. That we all have something to offer and to contribute to moving forward. That when we start to build together, we reclaim in a country where we feel like we've lost control of things, we can reclaim our individual and shared agency, that we can actually come together and build and do things and accomplish things together. And when we build together, we rediscover a shared humanity, that we're in this together. Last point, I think we need to make visible the good work that we're doing. So much of the good things that are happening in this community and in other communities and in this country are invisible to us. They're invisible to us. Part of it's because of the news media. Part of it's because of the negativity of our politicians. Parts of it is because we never put our phones down and get away from social media, right? It's kind of late to start applauding. There are so many good things happening. And yet those of you, and I know all of you are doing the hard work, those of us doing the hard work, we're working so hard that we seldom lift up our heads to see what we're producing, what we're creating. We're told by funders, don't talk about your results until the very end and you can prove that you've solved all the world's problems. Well, I've got news for everyone. We're not solving all the world's problems, we just want to make progress, right? So I believe we need to make visible those things that are now invisible to us and lift them up and learn how to tell stories about them. Not that sugarcoat the challenges or sugarcoat or pretend that we created something that we didn't. Let's tell the truth about what's happening. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of people lying to me. But let's lift up the good things that are happening, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and share them with others. Share the good news with folks. And help people see that actually we can believe in something again. That people just like us are coming together to produce good things. And that maybe, just maybe, by seeing these stories, we'll decide to step forward ourselves and begin to join these efforts. So let me end with 2 quick thoughts. You still with me? Yeah. In my faith, there is a teaching that's common in a lot of faiths. And it goes, if you save one life, you save the world. If you save one life, you save the world. I've often wondered why they teach us this. Because if you save one life, clearly you don't save the world, right? But as I've thought about it more and more, and I've thought about the work that I'm engaged with, I've thought about that if you save one life, it means that you have turned outward towards someone other than yourself. That if you save one life, you've placed a value on a life other than your own. That if you save one life, it means that you've reached out to someone that may be different from you, or may have concerns that are different from yours. That if you save one life, you've gone to bat for someone else, not just yourself. That if you save one life, you put a stake in the ground in public that declares, I am for not only myself, but I am for someone else as well. That if you save one life, you have said that you believe in our shared humanity, that we're here together, and we need to go together. That if you save one life, maybe the light within you has brightened. And as you save one life and you touch another person, maybe, just maybe, their light had gone out. Or maybe their light had dimmed, or maybe their light had diminished, or maybe someone denigrated their light somewhere along the way and they had lost faith and belief and hope. And by touching them, their light is now shining. And that when you touch them and their light begins to shine, they touch another person and they ignite the light of someone else. And then they ignite the light of someone else, and before you know it, we have illuminated a whole pathway forward that says to us, we do not need to settle for what is happening in this country. We can declare a new day, a new beginning, and get on a new, more hopeful, a more equitable, a more just and fair path in this nation. Now look, we are meant to go together. We are human beings. We are not meant to be apart from one another. And yet, we are suffering from an epidemic of loneliness in this country at a time when we are more connected to one another than at any other time in the history of civilization. But we are meant to go together. We are meant to be together. We are meant to save one life. It doesn't matter how large or small your efforts are. They're all contributions to getting us on a new civic path. And so, as we move forward together, I refuse to be cowed by those who seek to pull us apart. I refuse to be deterred by those who seek to stop us. I refuse to be diminished by those who say don't have hope. I refuse to not believe by those who say belief is something from some other age and some other era. I refuse to reach out to people who are different from myself when folks say to us, just stick to your own kind and don't join with others. I'm here tonight because I know you share these same beliefs. I'm here tonight because I know you care about this community. I'm here tonight because I know you care about this country. And I'm here tonight because we refuse to give in, to give up, to step back. We're turning outward. We're stepping forward. We're leaning in. We're doing the hard work we need to do. And we're creating a better country, not just for some of us, but for all of us. Thanks so much for having me.
So what we want to do now is open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions for Rich? Again, this is a safe space for all of us, right? We're amongst family. I think it's important to be able to engage, and we're a wonderful opportunity to be able to do so tonight. So, questions? Yes.
I'm Evelyn Morrison, Pastor Morrison, and talk to us about authenticity, being able to take off the mask and to create a authentic self.
You know, I think in doing this work, doing the work of community, basically doing the work of being with other people, it occurs at the nexus point of two things: who we are as an individual and who we are as a civic actor. And I think each of us, my experience has been, at least, this is not something I believe, this has been my experience, is that most of us, the vast majority of us, 90% of us, are motivated by caring. Not all of us, but most of us. We want to do the right thing. We don't always do the right thing, but we want to do the right thing. We want to see and hear other people, but we may be afraid of other people. We may be afraid of ourselves. And so I think in terms of being, you use the word authentic, I would use the word real. In terms of how can we be real, I think part of this is that we've got to step away from all the noise. This doesn't take very long. And I think we've got to get square with what is it that we really value and connect that to what is it that we want to do in the larger world. And then connect that to not how can we change the world, but how can we simply take one step forward. I think so many of us have lost our confidence in doing that. I think so many of us are in kind of a fight or flight mode. We're either going to come out swinging or we've retreated. I think so many of us suffer from trauma. And we feel as though we don't have a voice. We don't feel seen and heard. We don't feel as though we have any agency. So I think right now in America or in our communities, in our lives, I think we have to give ourselves permission to start small. Just take one step. And I think we each have to calibrate how much risk we can tolerate and not get too far ahead of ourselves. Because I think this is about building belief, it's about building confidence, it's about finding your voice, it's about finding our way. And so I think that's where we need to start. So I hope that helps. Other questions?
Questions, comments?
Someone who's skeptical about what I'm talking about?
No, but can you talk a little bit, maybe specifics about like what you think the next steps are for cities like Reading? Like what is the civic path? We didn't read the book yet.
Yeah, so there are 8 or 9 things in the book. Reading's on the civic path. I decided not to talk about Reading tonight, but you know, When we first started working with folks here 3 or 4 years ago now, what we learned from the community was that this was a fragmented community, that a lot of people didn't feel seen and heard, that a lot of folks felt as though when there were community discussions, that there was lip service to really acting on what people cared about, that people didn't feel safe venturing too far out into the community at times, that people didn't trust a lot of leaders or organizations. There were some, but not enough. And so, and when we first started working with Reading, it was at the height of culture wars on education, and people across the country, including here, said, because we were to work on education, said you would never be able, the community would never be able to develop an agenda around education during the height of culture wars, book banning, arguments over school boards, all those things. Well, the community did create a 9-point agenda. You can get it. Centro can give it to you. The United Way can give it to you. Dave, where's Dave? Dave can give it to you from Berks Alliance. So there is a 9-point agenda. And then 3 teams, as a number of people mentioned, formed around English as a second language, after-school activities, early childhood education. And people came together from all different walks of life and began to produce actions that grew over time and spread like a chain reaction, took root, grew, and spread over time, and then moved into other areas into the community. So I actually think there's a report on this, but there are people here working on it. I'm looking at Laura right now. We're meeting tomorrow to pull together all the innovators who have been working on this. 55 people on a moment's notice signed up to come. Part of the challenge in Reading was we couldn't incorporate new people fast enough, right? So actually Reading is one of the great examples of a community that was, 10, 12, 15 years ago declared the poorest community in America? That is now moving forward. When I asked people in Reading a year ago, what are you creating here? People didn't tell me about the strategies, programs, and initiatives they've created, and they've created many. What they said was, we are creating, as Mike said, new trust. We are creating new relationships. We are creating new bonds. We are creating new ways of interacting. We are starting to listen to each other, and we can actually trace what people said and the actions that were taken. We actually moved from getting together, which we all do in our work. We all like to get together and share stories and wins and everything. But it's a whole nother thing, as you know, to work together, to have the hard conversations, to identify duplication of resources and redundancies and figure out who's going to be in which lane, to figure out what is our shared purpose in doing work, and to stop competing with one another about money and figure out how we can actually create a referral system across all different kinds of things here in this community. That happened here in Reading. So in the book, I know you haven't read the book yet, in the book I talk a lot about Reading. There's going to be a new national podcast that some people here in Reading participated in that's coming out later this year. We didn't produce it, a national podcast produced it on Reading and what's happened in Reading. Now, when you walk down the street, is everything better in Reading? When you walk down the street, has the poverty rate in Reading appreciably declined yet? Maybe it's moving in the right direction. When you go into neighborhoods, does everyone have the kind of housing that they need and want, and I would argue deserve? Not yet. But what I would argue with anyone in the country, and have argued time and time again across the country, that Reading is an example of a community that amid great challenges and amid a narrative about this community, that this community could not pull itself up and move forward, that this community had been left out and left behind by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the rest of this country. That this community, this right here, is one of the best examples we have of a community coming together and getting on a new civic path and creating a different trajectory of hope, and realizing that there's still a hell of a lot of work to be done, but there's a ton of good stuff that's been going on and that we can build on moving forward. So that's the story for me of Reading. I hope that helps.